Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of LTC Heroes. I am here today with Deric Blattenberger, the General Manager, Senior Living at CenTrak, and Jessica Beaven, the Executive Director at Homeplace of Henderson. Hi, guys, and welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi there. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's so nice to have you on the show today. So, we're going to be talking about CenTrak and the solutions that this organization has for long term care. But before we get into all the details and all the important information, I wanted to start with an icebreaker to get to know each other better. So, let's start with you, Deric. How did you start working for long term care and providing solutions for this industry?
Great question. It started a little opportunistically. We did a lot of security systems, a lot of technology work at the time. It was 2005, and just had an opportunity to do similar work in senior care. At the time, I may have called the community a facility. There was a lot of learning to do pretty quickly as I got to know that this is a little different business. And I guess really the reason I took so much root into senior care was the hybrid environment of equal parts hospital, equal parts hospitality. Learn about owner operators. It's a real estate game largely. And then understanding, oh, there's not too many companies focusing on this industry. And it's a little underserved, a lot of repurposing of technology. And what I learned and was coached on throughout my career was customer as a verb, not a noun. So how do you customer means a lot to people. And when we really got a hold of that, really haven't looked back. We've spent a lot of time, for me, in healthcare. I spent a good stint in hospitals. I think we'll talk about that in a little bit, but ultimately being able to serve senior communities has been really fun. But 2005 is when I got into it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And now, Jessica, I'm going to throw the ball at you. So, how did you start your career in long-term care?
I started in 2010. I had gone to school and came back to my hometown in Kentucky and was given a job. I was offered the job the day I interviewed into our local assisted living community. And I think God just put me in the right place at the right time. I enjoyed it. It was my passion. I didn't even know that it was going as well as it was. And then I just enjoyed and loved it so much. And so I was able to be the social services marketing director at our local assisted living and was there for quite some time. And then just most recently, we were able to open Homeplace of Henderson in our local community with help from our local investors. So my husband, Patrick, and I were able to get this going. And we are a 60-bed community in Kentucky. And it's a dream come true. You know, I always tell people, follow your dreams, because there is so many things, and it still feels like we're living a dream because every day we get to come to our dream, and we've built it now. And so it really is a dream come true. I've been doing this in senior care for 12 years now, and I would not do anything differently. I really love what I do and taking care of good people as they age.
So what is the best thing about this industry? What is the thing that makes you the proudest when you wake up in the morning and you get to do what you do?
I think the thing that I enjoy most is a lot of times as we get busy with life, you know, we get so busy every day, our children, and so I get to be a part of their lives. And I think that is the one thing that I think about in what I tell my team is, you know, let's think of these people. We are blessed to have 60 grandparents every day who trust us, who believe in us, who know in our hearts that we're going to do right by them as if it were our grandparent. And I think that's what we sometimes get so busy with, the things that aren't probably as important as the wisdom and as the things that we get to be a part of every day. And it doesn't take time, it takes moments. And we're so grateful. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is seeing people who lived with us and they felt great and they didn't truly need much assistance, but to be with them through the end of life and to be a part of their stories and know who they are and know who their kids are and grandkids are. There's really nothing else better than that in life. We get to see them throughout their whole story, and it's just an extended family. So it's a very, and like I said, I wouldn't do anything different. I think God placed me in this, and I'm very blessed to continue this at Homeplace of Henderson.
And
That was
I'll chime in just as a technologist, going very different focus, right? Jessica is a caregiver at heart, and to put those people in the right place at the right time is awesome. But for me, I can't do what Jessica does, but I can try to create some things that will help Jessica and all of her team to get things done. So it's been pretty amazing. I can't tell you how many quotes and statements that I've heard from directors of nursing more than anything else that stick with me every day in our customer personas.
Yeah, and that's exactly also why we wanted to start this platform, because we've heard so many incredible stories from long-term care and how people talk about this industry, which is so special because I haven't heard of any other industry talking like this about their work day to day. And so that's why we share these stories, because we really think it's inspirational. So I want to go back, Deric, in what you said about kind of the differences between acute and post-acute and what that looks like in technology and the solutions that you bring.
Sure.
So how do you treat that? Is there any differences, any similarities?
Yes and yes and no, I think are the answers in that one. But so for CenTrak, we have a few truisms. One being, we believe there's three pillars of healthcare. There's acute care in hospitals, you have senior communities, and then you have home health care. So we do want to treat those personas differently in whatever it is, whether it's hardware technology in back of the house or as a software delivery, for a patient, a resident, or a visitor, right? These different areas, and those are different per market, per segment. I always struggle calling my customers market. I try to not do that. But with that, the differences for us was a pretty major challenge. We're a major company with a strong focus in acute care. We've carved out a great history and many patents in this industry of acute care. So my role as we started on this mission in senior care was, what do we take out of that product line and those solutions, and how do we build the first system, RTLS first system in senior care? And the goal, our line in the sand was, we do not want to forego certainty or absolute locating. That was what differentiated us in hospitals. It's what we're going to differentiate ourselves with in senior care. So, following that rule, we knew RTLS was a silver lining. And then when we developed the technology, when we looked at the budget, a real strong difference in senior care's budget. So when we looked at it, we said, okay, what are our customers going to be budgeting for? And that's where we started looking at those emergency call. When we start looking at wonder management, we know there's an investment there. How do we go with those investments, but surprise them with RTLS and blow them away with that differentiation? Yeah. So those were our goals. We've expanded it to be full on wireless nurse call with UL standards and that type. But nonetheless, that's really how we had to carve it up, is start learning what is the budget, why are they spending it, and then how do we ensure the RTLS doesn't get value engineered out of that.
Yeah, makes total sense. And Jessica, in the facilities perception or perspective, what is the important aspect that you think it's important for them to have in terms of differentiating health, generally speaking, healthcare and then long-term care?
Well, in our world, long-term care is like a big umbrella term. So, it could be, you have independent living, you have assisted living, you have memory care, you have skilled care, and so it's a broad term as far as which product is best for you and what goals you set. So for my husband and I, when we started to look into alternatives or options for what we wanted for what we call personal care in our state, was what long-term care solution or what solution could provide our long-term care the best results, and where could we find that would mix in well with our budget, because we are privately owned. We are a small company. This is our first building and we hope there'll be more. But this is our first building in Kentucky. So that solution came with TrueView, with CenTrak. I mean, we discussed our goals. We discussed what we wanted from our emergency call button. What were the things that we wanted? And so that type of conversation was occurring with CenTrak. You know, they were very, we looked into some other solutions. They were very cost prohibitive on what was affordable for our company. And they didn't offer the same value that CenTrak did. One of the things that I always tell families, and I get asked almost every single day in my business, is if something happens, how long will it take you to respond? How long will it take you to find my mom? And a lot of the solutions I had used previously sent me to their apartment. So if I'm in apartment 105 and I walk in there and your mom's not there, well, now guess what? I'm on a wild goose chase. And now I'm going to send all my staff to every part of my building to locate one individual when I'm taking care of 60. So with the solution, not only from the cost benefit for us on a small business, and then also the solutions that the real-time location TrueView app provided, it really was no question. I mean, for us, the long-term care industry has improved, and it's made our competitors and our people in our area improve their skills, because this is a reality for families now. We can we can get to people quicker because we know where they are. And
just to add to Jessica's point, her and her husband built a community, a proper community of socialization, and just some really amazing architectural concepts they've implemented for that openness, which really highlighted our difference a little more than anything else. Is when you want to have more social people are healthier people for a longer time. And that was a mission that was at the root of what we wanted to support, but we didn't want to restrict it to just the top 3 to 5% budget wise. So we talk about the different layers of care. Skilled care and acute care have a lot of similarities. Sometimes in many properties has a lot of similarities. So we didn't want just a portion of that, though. We wanted to be able to not limit who this gets to. We really believe that we've built something that if you're interested in having mobile duress for your staff or resident emergency call for a pendant anywhere within the property, we feel that we've carved it up so that anyone can afford this.
And I think for me, another part was that the ability to look at, so a lot of times, again, you're asked, how long did it take to respond? And so my staff members carry buttons, and that is picked up by those that they go and check on. So if one of my residents pushes their button, my staff member who answers that call, it's holding our staff and other people in the communities, regardless if it's our building or others, accountable, you know, that we are responding effectively and efficiently to the needs that our residents have. It sets us apart. It really does. And the whole thing that CenTrak has done is really what I consider person-centered care. That's what we founded our values on. And at the end of the day, if the person isn't the center of what you're deciding, then the focus needs to be changed. The lens needs to be changed, because these individuals that we have the privilege and honor to take care of or what we focused in on when we started setting things up. We didn't spend money on things that we didn't find value in. We only spent money on things that provided the best care and the best opportunities for people to stay where they want to. And in my case, it's Homeplace. They want to be with me. And one of those things that supports that is CenTrak, and holding my staff accountable and reacting in a timely fashion and doing things right by those who are aging and need some extra support. So it's a really great thing. It really is.
That was beautifully said. Thank you, Jessica. I just want to quickly cover, because we're talking about RTLS here, but I want to quickly go back a little and talk about the tech. So what is it exactly? How does it work? What is it? What's the technology involved? So Deric, if you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the technology at the root, it's one of two things typically for a customer, how they start, but it's emergency call or wonder management. And what that means, we have a wireless umbrella that we cover the community with. Inside that umbrella, any events, and we'll talk. I can talk for hours on end about events that we can create, but I'll keep it short. Any event in that umbrella, we will then drive the notification to the first responders. If it's, there's sometimes a first responder could be a maintenance person, think of a work order or something like that. But typically the events we're talking about, the focus of Jessica's story here are emergency call events or wander management events. So inside that umbrella, one of those occur. And then what we do that's very different is we label true location as RTLS for CenTrak's platform TrueView. And that true location just carves up the campus and highlights where someone is at that location, if you will, indoor GPS. So that's the technology. The wireless network is very unique to our manufactured processes because we are the only one in the industry with the act back. So when you push a button, it's not a hope plan. You push it, and then when that pin buzzes, it's because our system heard that message and sent the message back down. So we call that the CenTrak assurance model. But that was one thing that we spent a lot of time on, building that life safety component. So really built at its core, a duress platform, and then layered the RTLS on top of it. So even if wherever you are at the campus, no matter what, we're going to get that message. And then her team can be the dispatch first responders or escalate as necessary.
Do we want to show? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think we put numbers, so we ran, you get all these reports and these analytics, which is great as you're trying to improve your skills and see what staff needs and things like that. But we had over 1,800 alerts in October at our building alone. And I think when you think about that, there are people who the emergency is maybe not as an emergent but we ask them to push it in the event that a friend or themselves have a need, whether it's something as simple as toileting or something. That's what it's designed for. And it's for us, it's an extra layer of care for them. So just in our small community alone, we had 1,800 alerts that we responded to, and all those alerts were answered in a very timely fashion. And we were able to locate these residents. And due to that, the time frame of answering those calls was reduced tremendously.
Wow.
Victoria, if you want, I can show you an example of how we start the customer relationship.
Of course.
So in a lot of our properties, some communities, we did really attempt to build this for everyone, not just brand new community like Jessica's, but the best case scenario, we start with a blueprint, as most technologies may start with. But we've even done it just from a picture from right beside your elevator or stairwell, the little fire exit strategy. We can start with anything. So the first step is to understand what those spaces mean and make it soft to the eyes, nice gray tones, so that if you are going to look at the map, it tells you the story immediately. The numbers are big enough. The location looks right. So we first align and say, is this your property? That's the very first step. And it's a very important step to know that, yes, this is the cookie room, right? That's probably a pretty popular place in this design. But then also there's areas like kitchens, and we're going to talk a little bit later about no-go spaces, but any area that is important that a resident may or may be, whether they should be there or not, is important for us to understand. The final stage is the implementation, which is when we now carve up these spaces, give them that soft name. So if Jessica hired a new caregiver tomorrow, they can get the name of that message and know exactly where to go. So the name still matters. You're not always looking at a map. We don't anticipate that you stare at a map all day. That's not what any of us are in the business of paying someone to do. So for us, we wanted to give these soft names, but if you are lost, you look at that map and you get the absolute data. But each one of these spots become a space for our system. These spaces have 5 different metadata types, whether it's a resident room, staff area, and that's where we're focusing on learning more about activities of daily living and what will notify or drive the right information so they can have an efficient reaction to anything that may occur. That's how we started, Victoria.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. That is, I think it's clear to everyone how this can be helpful and very, very needed, actually. So thank you so much. And I just want to go really quick, ask you about the implementation. You talked a little bit about showing your staff how this works and everything. How how is that? How is the process of implementation? Is it hard? Is it easy to train? Is it long? Is it short?
It's easy. It's because in any business, I mean, like we referred, like we're not going to have someone sit in front of a computer. We're administratively very lean, and a lot of businesses are these days. I mean, it takes all hands on deck to make a business run. So when we do our training, it's very simple. We explain the way the pendant works and the way that the CenTrak assurance, you push the button, and we even teach our residents, which is crazy. But if it doesn't vibrate and they know that that call wasn't answered, 9 times out of 10, we do know because it has a low battery. So we go change them. But it is so reassuring because our staff, they have 3 days mostly of training. If longer needed, we will do so. But by that time, they know how to respond. They know how to look at the text message that comes through the phone that our staff carries. They know where the location of that resident is. They know how to respond. They know how to clear the button, and they know if there was something that could have been done differently, they tell us. But it is very simple. It is very, like I said, we're administratively lean. I go in, or my husband Patrick goes in. We set up pendants in house. So we're able to work alongside CenTrak if we ever have issues. They always are back to us in no time. So it is a very person-centered approach, and for us, it is seamless. It is very good for a small company or small business, but the implementation for us has been great and very simple.
And Victoria, this could not be more opposite than our hospital plan. So we when you do a major brand new hospital in Toronto, it's sometimes a year-long process for a partner and CenTrak to have it installed, and there's a budget for that as well. For us, typically every community is installed in a week. We have some major ones. Wonder management is always one that takes a little more time because you do a lot of work at a doorway to protect that doorway. Some choose not to lock the doorway down, so that's another choice that you get to make on the TrueView platform. But nonetheless, for us, our goal is typically at a community the size of Jessica's is a week. But they're a little different. They like to take some serious ownership there. Patrick may know more about my system than I do, honestly, but
He'll appreciate that, Deric.
Yeah, but with that, we really took really multiple approaches to make sure this didn't require so much programming, so much management. The goal is set it and forget it. We do depend a lot on batteries, so you can plug in things. They use both power and battery options at her community. But one other piece that we did as a manufacturer was assign a customer experience engineer to every one of our customers. We believe that what we built was very different. So being different, we have to be sure we have a high touch relationship. It is an end-to-end system, not just hardware, but there's software. And we are also every quarter release some form of updates. The last one that Jessica's probably going to be playing with here soon is we have a few different features, but she mentioned average response time. So we added a benchmark that you can kind of have a nice, pretty printout of the report on a routine basis and see how you're doing compared to the benchmark. So with that, we do like to keep playing with the software quite a bit. It's the hardware we try to leave alone for a while, but we do assign a customer experience engineer to every client for that reason.
Well, you said there is perfect going into my next question, because I was going to ask you, what is next for CenTrak? What are the plans and projects that you've been working on?
Sure. So we've went through the UL 2560 process, so that wireless nurse call process that many states require. We've put that to bed. Now we're focused on many different things I'm not going to talk about, but one thing we're really happy about is we've started spending a lot of time educating the industry on what we labeled roaming. So early onset dementia and sundown syndrome has taught me a lot in personal life, but also in career. I can't tell you how many nurses have told me over the years, just tell me when she's taking her dog for a walk. I just want to make sure she comes back in a timely manner. And that type of thing, because in the afternoon things tend to change, or medication change. So the crux that we were focused on is, how do I put that power in a caregiver's hands to be able to just do one click and be able to know if Deric is starting to wander into Chad's room often. Jessica may want to know that because maybe I'm picking a fight with Chad, which can happen at times. So with that story, we added 2 easy check boxes just for wrong room alert and all egress alert. So it's more of a passive wander management, but it's a second layer, more economical layer. There's a lot of customers maybe can't afford the investment. Maybe their neighborhood changed, the clientele in the neighborhood changed. Now you need a little bit more help than you would typically. Let's give them the power to just let this RTLS system tell them when there's a roaming event. So it's a little less aggressive wander management system. And it all came from voice of customer. People like Patrick and Jessica have let us know that, hey, this is really cool, but it took a lot of clicks. So we rewrapped it and said, well, if we're gonna make it easier to get to, we better call it something fun and something different. So we called it roaming, and that's what we've set up for. Just released this week.
That's really cool. I can already see how that is going to be very useful. So that's really nice. And so to close our little conversation here today, I already know the answer of this question, Jessica, but I'm still gonna ask to do a little closing beautiful statement to this conversation. If you had to recommend or tell a friend or a coworker to, use CenTrak, what would you tell them to kind of incentivize them to use it and share with them kind of the experience you've had with it?
Well, I always tell people, I tell them about it all the time and share with them currently about all the products. But one of the things I always say is, even at Homeplace, is we didn't want to be the norm. We wanted to be the exception. And one of those things that really made us the exception, and one of those partnerships was partnering with CenTrak, is because if we were doing the same thing that everyone else does, then we would be no different. But we didn't set out to be the same. We set out to be different. And
I not to interrupt you, I just want to add just so much proof in the pudding. I get a phone call from the head of business development. And he says, I got someone really different. We got to talk to him differently. He's like, we've got to dig in. And we got on a plane and came and visited what they were up to. So sorry to interrupt you, Jessica, but please.
That's right. So our design, like you had spoke of, and I won't take too much time talking about what we did, but because of what we did, we got to meet this group and say, this is what our idea is. And then when they would come, all of us would sit around the table talking about care. How can we improve our area of care? How do we make long-term care positive and not negative? And how do we improve it? Because people are aging. People are going to need Jessica Beaven, and they're going to need Deric. And how do we make it non-scary? Well, we find people. We alert people. We get to them quicker. We provide superb services. So this is a place when we get to a point in our lives when we have dementia, when we have congestive heart failure, this is where people want to go instead of where they have to go. And with this and with CenTrak, we're doing it. And people move to Homeplace. A lot of times when I say, hey, we've got this really cool piece of technology, we talk through it. They look at the buttons. They see their sleep. They put on their watches. They think they have an iWatch. They think they're cool, But it is for them to be cool at 90 years old. If they're going to push it, and I've given them something that makes them feel normal, and they're going to push it because most of my men, it's as simple as, I want to wear a watch. I don't want to wear a necklace, but they use it. And that's the biggest thing. A lot of times I would give people buttons and they wouldn't use them. They're using these. They know we respond and they know we can find them. And so again, it's not about the norm. It's about being the exception. And with CenTrak, you're the exception.
I knew we had to close it with Jessica. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. And thank you, Deric and Jessica, to be here today. It was really nice having you both here and talk about CenTrak. I'm sure our listeners are going to be very grateful and are going to use all this insight. So thank you so much, guys. And
thank you.
It was really nice to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
See
Take
ya.
care.